That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. A few things before we get started. Our conference is like 5 days away by now, and we can't wait to see everyone there. It is our 4th annual conference in Grafton, Illinois, May 12th through the 15th. It's not too late to grab a ticket and come out if you're in the area, but if you can't make it, grab a virtual live stream pass for only $66 and don't miss a thing. It is a professionally recorded event, and we bring it to your doorstep. It's interactive. There's a lot of cool features, and it includes a replay, so you don't have to actually be there live watching it. You'll get the replay. Don't worry about that. But you can find all that information at journeytotruth.online. And as many of you may have seen online, unfortunately, Daryl James had to back out of the conference for personal reasons, and we wish him the best. But we are replacing him with Jace from Cosmic Origins / Conscious Crypto Academy. He will be speaking on the Wednesday night slot on crypto in the golden age and hidden and suppressed technologies within the aerospace industry and how that all ties together. And he'll also be speaking on a cryptocurrency panel with Aaron and Patrick Riley on Tuesday, I think, right before that. So there's a lot of cool new developments. And don't forget, we are heading to Cahokia Mounds on the very last day of the event, actually the 16th. When the event ends, we leave at 11 a.m. and head over to the mounds, and Lily Nova is going to lead an activation over there. It's just going to be like a field trip / excursion / amazing taco truck. So take advantage of it, guys. Come on out. It's not too late. There's still room. Come hang out with us. We're going to have a lot of fun. Next year is going to be in Hawaii, so stay tuned for those details. And today, we are joined by Micah Dank, who is a former 32nd degree Freemason. He's an author of 9 books, among many other things. And I'm very excited to get into what he's bringing us today about how there is, I guess how you worded it was basically the Bible and every other ancient text is essentially an astrology code book.
Yes, I'm going to show you guys that.
Right.
Very much so.
Yeah. So maybe before we dive into that, just briefly for the audience who might not know who you are, you can kind of tell like what that journey was like and, how you even stumbled into this research.
Right. So about 13 years ago, it's about 13 years ago at this point, in 2012, I came across some videos or like a video or two talking about how all the ancient religions were based on Saturn and how they were just these little codes in the Bible. For example, in the Bible, one of my mentors told me that the disciples are trying to figure out where they'll meet Jesus. And he tells them, go into town and you'll see a man holding a water pitcher. And he was explaining that the man holding the water pitcher was Aquarius. So I figured that was pretty interesting. And then I just started looking into this and I just started studying this obscure science that no one really knows about, but everyone used to know about back in the day. I'm going to show you that. What I'm going to show you, I'm going to make a couple claims. I'm going to tell you that the Bible is not original. And I'm going to show you that it's an astrology book. And I'm going to show you that all the ancient texts are an astrology book. And I'm going to show you that to expose my research to the world will basically destroy the literal Abrahamics and is a way to bring peace on earth. Because the way things are going, there's no way it's ever going to happen. The way things are going, as long as people are taking these books literally. And I'm going to go through 6,000 years worth of books. And don't worry, it's only going to take me 80 minutes. I've narrowed down 13 years worth of research into 85 minutes, 80 minutes. And I'm going to show you that, this stuff is just going to open your mind. If you guys, I don't know if you guys have any, I know you guys are holding a conference, and I know that you guys are, plugged into the Truther system and everything. So I don't know if you guys have any religious background or if you were exposed to it at all, or if you still are.
I have a heavy religious background.
Do you? But where do
Yeah.
you stand now?
I don't claim any religion now. I'm very spiritual. I'm into a lot of spiritual.
Okay, so you guys lean towards right brain thinking, which is exactly what you'll need
Mhm.
for this. This is going to be absolutely awesome. I'm going to blow you guys' minds with this stuff.
Right. Well,
excited.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. And before we get started, I just, so how long were you in Freemasonry before you left?
I joined it, I want to say 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. 5 years ago. 5 years ago. I'm in Florida now, but I was living in New York. That's where I grew up,
Okay.
in Long Island. And I joined them because I thought they would be open to my research. And I lectured at the Great Masonic Lodge in New York City. Now, it was during COVID, so it was a virtual one. So I didn't actually get to go in and give the lecture at the lecture. But I was pretty excited. I got my work up in there. Manly P. Hall's work was up in there. I was pretty excited about that. And then I find out that they took it down because they thought it was too risky for the fraternity's reputation and it was too revealing of the signs. That's what they said to me exactly. So I quit because I'm not going to be part of any gatekeeping. I don't care who it is.
Right.
So I left them. I was a 32nd degree. And I left, and I joined them to find people who were esoteric, who were sort of into the same kind of stuff that we are, but that's not what I found.
Right. Yeah, that's fascinating. So, getting into this religious stuff, I would just like your opinion because, the Pope just passed away and all this news with the Vatican, right? And, the White House even posted a AI picture of Trump dressed as the Pope. Like, what are your thoughts on, what's happening with that? Do you think that's a lot bigger than we think?
Of course it is. So you guys are familiar with the Black Pope, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you guys know the Black Pope. You guys know the Gray Pope too, right?
I've
Heard about it. Yeah.
I don't know if our audience is fully familiar with it, but I mean, we've looked into it. Yeah.
Well, it's the Orsini family. The Rothschilds actually are descendants of them.
Right.
And Pepe Orsini is the Great Pope. The Black Pope is actually a title. It's the head of the Jesuits, and his name is Adolfo Nicolas. Or is it Arturo Sosa? It's one of the two. No, it's Arturo Sosa. Arturo Sosa used to be Adolfo Nicolas. And he's the one that basically gives the rules to the White Pope, who was also a Jesuit. So I thought they were going to bring a lot more things in, but what they ended up doing was bringing in a whole bunch of non-conservative, like the last pope didn't do a really good job. Like the Catholics have been looking for a pope since Pope John Paul II was killed, and he only was pope for 33 days. 33 days, by the way. 33, the number 33, guys. If you guys don't know what 33 is, even though you see it everywhere, right? You see 33 everywhere. Well, what the 33 is it's the number of vertebrae in your spine. And the 33rd vertebrae is at the base of your skull, right behind your pineal gland. And what happens is as your Christos, which is the holy oil, climbs Jacob's ladder, or your 33 bones, and then it settles in your pineal gland, and that's your resurrection. That's your awakening. Everybody has an awakening story.
So why do the Illuminati use it so much?
Well, because they like to invert and pervert things. I'll give you a couple of examples because I do Illuminati hand symbols. I explain it. You guys see this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You guys have seen this. Well, this is, they say it's 666 or white power. They tried to give it all this stupid nonsense. What this really is it goes back. It's just a Hindu mudra. You just go like this. You just turn it. The Illuminati symbol, the JZ one, this goes back to the ancient Jewish priest caste system called the Kohanim. And this symbol right here, Spock symbol, right? What they used to do is they used to do this to their congregation, and this is called the benediction. This was actually a blessing that they would put on the congregation. And what they do is they invert it and pervert it. The eye, when they do this, and it's always the left eye if they're not part of the Black Eye Club, but if it's the left eye, what they always do is it's the eye of Horus, which represents the pineal gland. So all this stuff is inverted and perverted. This right here, this is not the devil horns. This, the old Italians, grandmas would do this. This wards off the Maloki. This is actually a saving thing. This is actually to save you. So all these hand symbols are just inversions and perversions. What they do is they take the original meaning. For example, the swastika, right?
Right.
You take the swastika, everybody's like, oh, it's a Hindu symbol. And they inverted and perverted. All they did was they mirror imaged it. That's all they did. That's all they did.
Mhm.
But the swastika is actually astrology. What happens is if you take the Big Dipper and you rotate it around the Polaris, the North Star, the star that doesn't move, our North Star, during the solstices and the equinox, it forms the swastika. So they used to work this back in the day. That's for my second presentation. I have something else. Let me show you guys my first one.
Sure. And really quick, just going back to the Pope at the Vatican. What are your thoughts on why Trump posted that picture? Why the White House? Is that just some?
Because he's a clown. He's a clown. He's a troll. And I thought it was hilarious.
Right?
It
Yeah,
was hilarious.
I thought so too. I mean, like he's just trolling them. I thought,
I
yeah,
mean, there's a lot that Trump's doing that you could not like right now, but again, that's every president, right?
right.
Did you also see the on May the 4th, but where he's like Trump's like buff and he's a Jedi and he's holding a lightsaber?
Yeah.
There was that one too. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
I see he's a troll. He's a troll. The whole thing with Canada is hysterical.
Right.
Canada becoming the 51st state.
Right. We're gonna make Canada the 51st state.
It's hysterical.
Okay. Yeah. I just
like, oh yeah, you're not, and then he's like, oh yes, I am, and its whole thing is just funny.
Gulf of America. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get into the presentation. I was just curious on what your thoughts were on that, but yeah, it is very interesting. There's some. It seems to be like a change of guard happening, maybe in some capacity. I'm sure there's a whole order of operations on how that's going to play out, but it is, it's nice to see something changing.
Things seem to be happening.
Right.
And positive. Yeah.
All right. So you want me to share this then, right?
Yeah. Bring it on.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a visual, guys who are listening. I know you guys have a YouTube. I saw you guys have a pretty large Instagram too. So you just share this with the screen.
Yep. We see it.
Can the audience see it too?
Yeah. They'll be able to see it for sure. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's just start. This is going to take me about 80 minutes.
All right.
So this is the Holy Bible, right? The scriptures are, and I want you to understand this. The scriptures are metaphysical, astrological. That's what we're going to go over. I'm going to use my highlighter here to help really accentuate my presentation. Anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. It's also Gematria, etymology, numerology, symbology, and it's a psychedelic book if you've ever read John Allegro's The Mushroom and the Cross or heard of it. It's the same thing. So it's the 12 holy sciences, like the 12 zodiacs, like the 12 disciples, like the 12 months of the year. It's the same. It's not history, literal, reality, or original. So when I do this presentation, I want you to keep in the back of your mind the fact that I'm only explaining one of the holy sciences that the Bible is, just one. But to give you an example, I'm going to show you a numerology example of the Bible, just to give you an example. Now in John 21:11, so Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. So it's also a numerology book. Now, 153 is a Fibonacci number for starters. But if you see this right here, this is two intersecting circles right here. What we have here in the middle, right here, I'm not going to leave that, is the Vesica Pisces. Pisces being the two fish. So if you look at this, you're wondering where the two fish are. Well, if I do this, do you guys recognize the symbol?
The Jesus fish.
There you go. So there's the one fish. And there's the two fish. Okay. Now, this right here, the mathematical equation for this is 265 over 153. So there's your 153, guys. So this is just all entangled, the numerology. So this is just a basic example of something that I would show. But again, like I said, I'm just going to go over the astrological part. So as deep as you see this, I'll show you. So what I'm going to do is, because as you guys start to see the patterns and you see me dancing around the zodiac, showing you all the connections, And I promise this will make a lot of sense to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you why they did this first. So what is the point of this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus is when you put the plow on the bull and plant, as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac, and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make stories up about them and pass them down to their children, then to their children, etc. Eventually, they learned how to write, and they wrote them down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament, then to the Christians in the New Testament, and then it's in the Quran, and then it's in the Book of Mormon, and it's in all the Gnostic texts. It's in everything. So this quote that you're going to get familiar with, my point once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. And that's basically the truth. So what I want to show you here is this is the zodiac. Cancer is at the top. This is the summer. So this is when the sun is at its height. Right here, this is the longest day of the summer, the shortest day of the winter. This is Capricorn. This is the bottom. This is winter. And what I want to show you, this is spring, and this is fall. So what I want to show you, for example, is there's patterns that can be made in the zodiac. For example, if I'm in Aries right here, there's two patterns that you can make. You have what's known as a connecting sign, and that would be Pisces here and Taurus here. That's two patterns. The other pattern would be what's known as its opposing sign, which is across the zodiac. It's their opposing sign. So this is here. The other thing I want to mention too is, for example, you see Cancer is the crab and Gemini and Leo is the lion. If I'm in the sign of Cancer, I can talk about the crab. If I'm in the sign of Leo, I could talk about the lion. But if I'm right here, this is known as a cusp right here. These lines don't actually exist. You don't look in the heavens and it's broken down. That's not what it is. What they represent is the last 3 days of a sign and the first 3 days of the next sign. It's called the cusp or handover date. While the story takes place in this cusp, you can talk about either or because it's bordering both of them. So there's questions you can ask in the Bible: how Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why he was dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th. Excuse me. All that is astrology, and I'm going to show you that. Now, Genesis 1:14 says, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years." And that's basically what the zodiac does. The day and the night is the sun and the moon, and the signs are the zodiac, and they mark the seasons, days, and years. Now, each zodiac sign is called a house, or an era, or an eon, or a sign, or a mansion. I just want to give you keywords that reference the zodiac. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to teach you guys the 12 signs of the zodiac in a way that you guys haven't heard. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach some keywords to each sign so that it represents the sign. And you'll agree with me as I give you them. And if you don't agree, please let me know. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take those keywords and we're going to make patterns. And I'm going to show you how that works. So do you guys have any astrology background at all?
Just from the people we've interviewed, I'm not super into it. I do have a good foundation understanding of it, but that's about it. I'm not super.
Yeah, I know. Right, I know a little bit, but I don't know a ton. I'm by no means an expert. I have some friends that are, but I just know the basics. Kind of.
As I read you guys these 12 signs and go over them, I don't expect you to remember everything. You don't need to be an expert in this. The only thing I ask of you is to just, when I talk about things, to be like, oh yeah, he mentioned that. I remember him saying that. Okay, that's all I need. So the first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is represented by the man. Virgo is the woman. Aquarius is the man. Now, technically, Aries begins the year, but I start in Aquarius because that's kind of near the beginning of our year. The story of Aquarius, one of its early iterations, goes back to, and there's many iterations of it, but one of the early iterations is the story of Zeus and the young boy. Zeus saw a young boy on Earth, and if I'm not mistaken, it was a 14-year-old blonde boy on Earth. And he wanted him on Mount Olympus with him. And guys, I don't know if you know this, but Mount Olympus is a real place on Earth. And none of the Greeks ever thought to go up there to look to see if the gods were up there. So,
Yeah.
What happened was the boy's father wouldn't let him go, but Zeus was persistent and he offered him land, money, and all this stuff. So, anyway, eventually he lets the boy go up. While the boy's up there, he's just like in this water picture, he's serving them a drink called ambrosia, which was their nectar. That's what the gods drank. And he's doing this day in and day out, day in and day out. And eventually he gets fed up with it. So he goes to the edge of the world, or the edge of Mount Olympus or heaven, whatever you'd like to call it. And he pours it out, just like in this picture. And this causes a great flood on Earth. That's where the Greeks get their flood story from. Now, Zeus, who's usually a very deviant, angry, difficult god, was going to punish him. But in a moment of self-reflection, which was rare for Zeus, in a moment of self-reflection, he's like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have brought the boy up. He was young, he had friends, he had a life. Instead of punishing him, what he does is he immortalizes him as the constellation Aquarius. So the key words would be man, because this is the sign of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, because this is how you baptize someone. Water pitcher, because this is a water pitcher. Fountain, because the Greek fountains and statues were built just like this. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea. Now, Aquarius is an air sign in astrology. It's not actually a water sign. But because there's liquid right here, that can be used to interpret water. Now, Pisces, the next sign, is the two fish in the water. Pisces is actually a water sign. So stream, river, pond, lake, sea, ocean. So the reason I start with Aquarius is because the first two are water. Now, how you decide whether it's Aquarius water or Pisces water, I'm going to show you examples, but it has to do with the words they use and the patterns it makes in the heavens. Now, in Aries, that's the ram. And in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. That's the start of the year. There's also three types of passovers that occur. The first, on March 21st, is the sun passing over the equator and makes its way back on to its height in the summer solstice. In Judaism, the Passover is when the angel of death passes over, and anyone that doesn't have the lamb's blood, the lamb is a baby ram, by the way, smeared on their doorposts. Why did they do that? Why did the Jews do that? Because it identified them as the people of the age of Aries. The ram, which is why the Jews blow the ram's horn during the high holidays in temple, because it's Aries worship. Anyway, anyone that doesn't have the lamb's blood smeared on their doorposts, their firstborn sons get killed. In Christianity, the passing over is changed, and it's called the resurrection of God's Son. And Easter is astrology too, because you have the spring equinox, March 21st. Well, then you have to have a full moon. And then after the full moon, you have the first Sunday after the full moon, after the spring equinox. And that is how you figure out what Easter is every single year, because it keeps changing. So the key words would be ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn. Taurus is the bull, and it's as above, so below. If you look in the sky and you see Taurus, you put the plow on the bull on Earth. It's as above, so below. Remember, we have John Deere equipment that does this now, but back in the day, they used to use the bull. So you can harvest the seeds. So you can harvest in Virgo and Libra, which I'll get to. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow is the female bull, that's Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. This is another Greek story. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, that's Gemini. Cancer is the crab, and the crab in the ancient times was known as the scarab, the beetle. You even get the letters crab out of scarab. Why is Cancer the crab? I'm going to show you. See, this is the December 25th is right here. That's the day the sun's going to rise a degree on its axis. December 26th, another degree. December 27th, another degree. The days are getting longer, the nights are getting shorter. And this little thing that I'm drawing is not to scale. I'm just showing you every day the sun's going to rise a degree every single day till it hits the summer solstice. That's June 21st. That's the longest day of the year, the shortest day of the year. Then what the sun's going to do on June 22nd is it's not going to rise an additional degree or drop a degree. What it does for 3 consecutive days is it walks at that exact same height, hence moving sideways. It shuffles sideways, just like the crab. The crab is a sideways moving creature. Then on June 25th, it's going to drop a degree. June 26th, it's going to drop a degree. June 27th, it's going to drop a degree. And now the nights are getting longer, the days are getting shorter, and it's going to make the inverse pattern all the way down until the winter solstice, December 21st. December 21st, that's the shortest day of the year, the longest night of the year. The ancients would look out into the sky during this time period on December 21st, and they noticed that the sun didn't even crack the horizon. So they used to say that the sun was dead. And then what's going to happen is for 3 consecutive days, it's going to walk sideways, just like the crab. So God's sun was dead. Now suddenly God's sun's dead for 3 days. We're on December 25th, or the day of the birth of Christ, the day of the birth of all the ancient gods. The sun comes back to life. It's born again, the risen Savior, the light of the world. So that's why Cancer is the crab. Now, Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle, or the king of the savannah. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you're talking about lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Virgo is the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when we said that you plant in Taurus, well, the virgins would go out and cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, all grainy things that were harvested in the northern hemisphere thousands of years ago, in Virgo, wheat harvest, the harvest season, that's Virgo. Now, Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over, or technically passes under, the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. The Jews always celebrate the new year around the fall equinox. For example, in 2023, the Jewish New Year was September 15th. That's Virgo. Well, 8 days after the Jewish New Year, and it's always 8 days after the Jewish New Year, there's a holiday for the Jews, and it's called Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, or the Day of Judgment. Well, 8 days after September 15th is September 23rd. That's the first day of Libra. Of course, the Day of Judgment has to happen in the scales. Absolutely. So all law related things, law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court. It's also wine and olive season. That's when you press the wine and press the olives in Libra, the wine and the olives. So all law, all wine, and all olives related. Now, Scorpio is the scorpion, and he is the betrayer. When a scorpion attacks you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death, and it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with the kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. This is where the sun dies. Why? Because on December 21st, the sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. We went over this already. So the day of death is the last day of Sagittarius. That's the first day of winter. So whenever you're talking about horse, bow and arrow, or horseman, that's Sagittarius. And then finally, you have Capricorn, who's the goat. So again, the sun's going to start rising a degree on its axis every single day, December 25th. It starts the climb up what is known as the Great Mountain, or the Zodiac. It's called the Great Mountain in Capricorn. And the reason the goat starts to climb up the mountain is because the goat climbs the mountain better than any animal that's out there. You ever seen a mountain goat, a video of a mountain goat climb?
Yep.
That's why. So those are the 12 signs. Those are the key words. Now, there's words that are given to Jesus in church that are based off of this. His names that he's given. For example, Capricorn is the goat. So when Jesus, by the way, the sun is behind him right here, because in every single picture, the sun is behind him. This isn't a halo. This is literally the sun, because he represents the sun in every single picture that you can find on the internet. So Capricorn is the goat. So when the sun, or Jesus, is in Capricorn, he's the scapegoat of Israel. When the sun is in Aquarius, the sign of the man, he is the son of man. When the sun or the Christ is in Pisces, the two fish, he's the fisher of men, and that's why he feeds the masses with two fish. When the sun is in the ram in Aries, he is known as the Lamb of God or the Good Shepherd. Cancer, the scarab, the beetle, St. Augustine calls Jesus the good beetle. When the sun is in Leo, the lion, he is the Lion of Judah. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo, he is born of a virgin, and he is called the bread of life. Libra is the scales of justice. He is known as the just one. I mean, these are all names for Jesus in church that are all based off astrology. And then he's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 21st. And it's also why he's worshipped on the sun day. So now, based off of that, let me start with some scripture. Deuteronomy 32. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams made from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So let's start with this. Honey. Right here in Cancer, there's a tightly knit group of stars called the Beehive Cluster. So that's where the honey comes from. The Beehive Cluster, earlier than that, used to be called the Manger. Now, this right here is your first day of summer. So we know that olives are crushed in Libra. The milk from the flock comes from right here in Sagittarius. The last day, that's the first day of winter, in Sagittarius, the center of the Milky Way galaxy. So you have the milk and the honey here. First day of summer, all the way to the first day of winter, is your land of milk and honey. It's not a place on earth. The lambs are Aries, the goat is Capricorn, the ram is Aries, the fine wheat, the lady with the wheat stalk, Virgo, the wine and the red grapes are Libra, and the bull is Taurus. There's 10 signs here. So based off of that, let me show you how you use the zodiac wheel to start telling a story. Mount of Olives. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives. So olives, after his last Passover, so that he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olive, he gave the parable of the true vine. So Passover takes place here in Aries. Well, right after that, they walk to the Mount of Olives. Well, the olives are in Libra. That's the opposing sign. So you're in Libra now. While you're in Libra, you're waiting for the betrayer, Judas, to betray him. Well, Scorpio's the betrayer. That's the next sign over. So that's 1, 2 patterns. But you're not in Scorpio yet because he said he's waiting for the betrayer. So you got to check the words. He's still in Libra. And while he's Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember, he gives the parable of the true vine, which has to do with grapes, which has to do with the wine. So that's just a very rudimentary sign or example. Revelation 4:7. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion. That's Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. In astrology, the Scorpio scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. To slither on your belly, to crawl on your belly is a low form of life on Earth. It's a punishment. The first thing God does in the Garden of Eden after the deception with the snake and the apple, I mean, they never said it was an apple, but regardless of the fact, after the deception, he doesn't kick them out right away. The first thing he does is he takes the legs away from the snake so that it has to slither. In Mexico, during Santa de la Muerte, the men dress up in suits, get real nice, get on their hands and knees and their bellies, and they crawl to church. Now, the scorpion is the lowest form of life on Earth, but its evolved form, which is also known as the ascendant, is the eagle. The eagle is the highest flying form of life on Earth, so that's how it evolves. So the eagle is actually Scorpio. Now, Scorpio evolves 8 times in total in astrology. It's irrelevant for this presentation, but after the eagle, it becomes the phoenix. And the phoenix is the same story of Christ, the same story of the sun. It's the story of a flaming ball of life that dies and comes back to life from its ashes. That also evolves into the dove. There's other evolutions of it, but it's irrelevant for this. So Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. So what are the fixed signs of the zodiac? Well, you have 12 zodiac signs and you have 4 seasons. So you have 3 signs in each season. So this is a season right here, these 3. Then these 3 is a season. Then these 3 is a season. Then these 3 is a season. So what I want to show you is just this example right here. This right here that I'm making the cross of God's son that he carries to his death. This is known as the cardinal signs. That's why there's cardinals in church. If I were astrologically, I could break a sign down into 3 10-day segments called deacons. That's why you have deacons and cardinals in church, because it's astrology. Now, this is the cardinal sign. This is the fixed sign. And this is the mutable sign, the water sign that takes you out of the sign. The reason they're called the fixed signs is because Taurus and Scorpio are fixed in their season. Leo and Aquarius are fixed in their season too. They're smushed in the middle of the 2 other signs. So this is the middle of the summer. This is the middle of the fall. This is the middle of the winter, and this is the middle of the spring. So what happens is you're reading this and you're going, the first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. It's either going to be a 4-headed creature or it's just going to be making this pattern in the zodiac of the fixed signs. This is known as the 4 living creatures, by the way. Ezekiel 10:14. Each of the cherubim had 4 faces. One face was that of a cherub. The second was the face of a human being. The third, the face of a lion. And the fourth, the face of an eagle. It's the same thing. Now, Revelation 12, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky, and flung them to earth. So, a woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. It's just a metaphor for the sun being in Virgo. If the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. So check this out. This is also a clock. There's 24-hour a day in a clock, and there's 12 zodiac signs. So this right here is midnight to 2. This is 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6. We're talking about Virgo. So that's between 4 and 6 p.m. Well, if it's between 4 and 6 p.m., the sun is still out. So if the sun is out, the moon technically, metaphorically, is at her feet. Not literally, but when the moon is up, the sun is down. When the sun is up, the moon is down. So these are just metaphors. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail, which I'm highlighting right here, swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. Well, there's a constellation called Draco, which is the dragon. Its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. See, this is just basically star poetry. Now, if I'm showing you Matthew 10:16, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So the sheep are Aries right here. And the wolf is the constellation Lupus, which is in Libra. So that's the opposing sign. So be as wise as serpents. Between Scorpio and Sagittarius, you have Ophiuchus and Serpens, which is the serpent, and harmless as doves. Well, the dove is the evolution of Scorpio. So you have an opposing sign and then 3 signs in a row in just this one passage. So I've given examples of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry-picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. So let's take a much longer passage from the Bible to prove a point. So let's see if we can decode it as well. So now I'm going to bring you to the story of Job. Are you guys familiar with the story of Job?
Aaron might be more than I am, but I do want to interject really quick. I mean, so people, if they accuse you of cherry picking, I mean, how else would you prove a point unless you literally pick a verse? You know what I'm saying? So I find
Yes.
this all very fascinating, actually, and I'm learning a lot, and it's kind of mind blowing in the sense that like it really is just encoded, and it's like a star map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So would your co-host like to share with everybody what the story of Job is about?
Yeah, it's let me refresh my memory on it real quick. It's when Job doesn't he have like everything taken away from
Yes.
him? To and the devil is like trying to tempt him, basically, right? Or say like, well, how do you still love God if you let this happen, kind of thing.
Right. Exactly.
Right, right,
So Job is a righteous dude. He has everything.
right.
Land, money, family, wife, animals, everything. And Satan goes up to God and he says, the only reason he's your most faithful servant is because he has everything. If you take
Right.
things away from him, he'll curse you. And God says, I don't believe that. I'll take that bet. So he takes the bet from Satan and he says, you can do anything you want to him, but you cannot take his life. That was the only caveat. So little by little, he starts losing everything. And then at one point, he's basically sitting on a rock in a field, covered in boils, has nothing, and he's crying out to God. And God responds to him. What I'm going to read you is God's response. And this is going to go crazy. Ready? Job 38:32. The first thing God says is, can you lead forth the Mazaroth? The Mazaroth is untranslated intentionally because they don't want you to know, and you can look this up, that the Mazaroth translates to the word Zodiac. They don't want you to know that. Mazaroth over time becomes the word Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today. I'm sure you've heard Mazel Tov, which means good fortune from the stars. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? First, he says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Well, those are open celestial metaphors. Now, the Pleiades are in Taurus. Orion's belt is between Taurus and Gemini at the cusp. Then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above, and the bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. That's between Gemini and Cancer. Well, guess what? Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer are 3 zodiac signs in a row. Who can tip over the water jars of the heavens? That's Aquarius. That's literally the man tipping over the water jar in heaven. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger of the lions? That's Leo. Well, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo are 4 signs in a row. So far what we have is we have Aquarius right here, and then we have this lovely pattern right here of these 4. But it continues. Who provides food for the raven? That's the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? That's Mariga, meaning deer, and is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's Acellus borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. Do you give the horse its strength? So they mention the horse, so we know it's Sagittarius. But if you keep reading, it says it laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword, the quiver. So when they mention the quiver, what is a quiver, guys? The quiver sits on the side of the horse that holds the arrows. So now we know that it's a man on a horse with a bow and arrow. So that's Sagittarius. Does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? A key, you have Scorpio. Scorpio is the eagle. Finally, he says, and can you pull in Leviathan with a fish hook? Well, Leviathan was an ancient fish god that they competed in the age of Pisces. You had Dagonism, you had Mithraism, you had Leviathan, which is Pisces. So when it's all said and done, you have Scorpio and Sagittarius. So that's a connecting sign pattern. You have Aquarius and Pisces. Those connect. And then you have 5 signs in a row here. So the only signs he didn't mention out of the zodiac god was Aries. So he didn't mention the lamb or the ram or the shepherd. You also have Libra. So he didn't mention the scales. He didn't mention the law. He didn't mention the wine or the oil. And he didn't mention the goat. But everything else here was mentioned. So how Jesus was able to heal the blind. So the story goes that in the Bible that the blind man came up to Jesus and he was like, can you heal me? And Jesus was like, yeah, through your faith, I could do anything. So basically, what he does is he um, rubs his hands in dirt and spits on him, spits on his fingers, and he rubs the man's eyes. And then what happens is the man, when the dirt falls off, he's able to see. Well, the sun does the same thing too, because right now it's about 8 o'clock at night. The sun's going down and I'm blind. I can't see outside. You can't see a thing. Without any lights, you can't see anything. So what happens is the sun literally has to come up in the morning and touch your eyes in order to give you the sight again. Now, how he walked on water, we know the story about how Jesus walked on water, but the sun does the same thing too. If you've ever gone fishing before on a lake and seen the sun dancing across the water during the morning or the evening. And also, the Bible, the New Testament, was written by Jews in Greek. There were no Christians that wrote the Bible. It was written by Jews in Greek. The Jews wrote the Old Testament and the New Testament. And Christos is Greek for Jesus Christ, Christos, but Christos translates to anointed one or oil. Doesn't oil also walk on water?
Yep.
So what you have here is he walked on water, the sun walking on water, and Christos. You have three different examples of walking on water. This is known as a triple entendre. Now, how he turned water into wine, this is a procedure based on the Zodiac. So the reason God is considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman has to do with one thing. And I'm going to show you that later too. It's the sacred rain. It's the sacred fluid, the rain. In Hebrew, the word is shemen. We get the word semen from it. So you got to think about this literally, is that what happens is, metaphorically, I should say, God's sacred fluid ejaculates onto Earth. And then from her belly, from the water, plants grow, food grows, all sorts of things grow. So she becomes impregnated. So what happens is, in Taurus, you see the bull, you put the plow on the bull, you plant the seeds for the grapes, and then April showers bring May flowers. Well, that's in Taurus. And then it rains and it rains and it rains. And then what happens is it keeps raining. And then in Libra, you pick the grapes into the wine, crush them into the wine. That's how you turn God's water into wine. Why he had 12 disciples, I'm going to show you that real quick. Aquarius right here, if you add the 13th zodiac sign of Fucus, you can add John the Baptist baptizing everyone in Aquarius. In Pisces right over here, you have Simon Peter. Michael becomes Mike, Thomas becomes Tom, Ronald becomes Ron. But Simon doesn't go to Peter unless you understand astrology, because Simon's job on Earth was a fisherman. So the fish is Pisces. The ruling planet of Pisces is Jupiter or Jupiter. So in Gemini here, you have Thomas Didymus, because Ta'om or Tom in Hebrew means twin. Didymus in Greek means twin. Libra right here, you have James. He's known as the just one. Scorpio right here, you have Judas. He is known as the betrayer because of the kiss. I mean, I just gave you 5 examples. I'm not going to go in all of them real quick, but that's basically why he had 12 disciples. Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, we went over that. Why he was dead for 3 days, we went over that. Why is his birthday on December 25th, we went over that. It's all astrology. So now this science only works for people in the Northern Hemisphere, and there's a reason for that. The Egyptians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all based out of the Northern Hemisphere. For example, June 21st, the summer solstice, is actually the winter solstice in Australia, New Zealand, much of South Africa, and South America. So just as an example, guys, Taurus right here, you see the bull, you put the plow on the bull, because everything is reversed in the Southern Hemisphere. In order to figure out what to do when with this Farmer's Almanac, you just got to invert it. So you just go across the zodiac wheel. And Scorpio is the opposing sign of Taurus. So this is when you would plant in the Southern Hemisphere. So it doesn't stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that could be decoded this way. I'm going to go through the entire book of Revelation to show you how deep this runs. Guys, can I take a quick pause and go pee real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll let you guys discuss this. I'll be right back.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, Aaron, I know what I'm thinking about this. I mean, I don't know how you're feeling, but this is kind of mind blowing, and it makes a lot of sense.
It is. I have heard some of these things before. I've heard people say, I've heard I knew that the Bible wasn't original in the sense that a lot of it was goes back to the ancient Egyptian texts and then the ancient Sumerian texts. It you can see the parallels when you go look at those texts. It's like the same stuff is in the Bible. And then I had heard things about Jesus, the Son of God, being the actual Son, and like dead for 3 days was the solstice, where like he's saying it's 3 days where it's staying the same. I had heard some of this stuff before, but I hadn't looked too much into it. And the amount of detail he's laying out here, that is just like, it's one of those things you're like, okay, maybe there's like a mix of some astrology in there, but like I wasn't convinced that the whole thing was like, I thought like, okay, well, maybe these events were also literal. I do think there are still literal events that are depicted, like the Great Flood, I think was a great flood that happened many thousands of years ago that got passed down in ancient texts and then turned into the flood of Noah in the Christian Bible. But there's a lot in the Bible, I think, that is exactly what he's pointing out, that is literally just encoded astrology in the form of stories and metaphors and things that if you take literal, you think it's just they're literally speaking about these things, but it's actually encoded astrology.
Right. But then my question,
to pass down the knowledge in a way that like it's like a tool used to pass down the knowledge and that everyone can understand, so it makes sense.
Right. But my question would be then, like, okay, so where did the story of the stars come from? Where did that story come from? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay,
Right.
the Bible tells the story of astrology, but what told the story of astrology? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Who came up with that in the first place? Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So, like,
who decided that these constellations were, that one is Scorpio and that one is
right.
a
So,
ram, and that one is a lion.
right. So there's a much bigger question there too, but like obviously,
That's Orion's belt, right?
but if you think of this as like an intelligently designed, engineered masterpiece, like this is like the amount of
Right.
the
Well,
amount of intelligence it would take to even like piece this together and write this book as in such a metaphorical way to tell the story of astrology, like it's kind of amazing.
right. Well, I think it goes back to ancient, Atlantis and Lemurian times, because our astrology is based on our planet. It's all based on beings that live on this planet. So like our astrology doesn't work if you're living in some other galaxy or in some other planet in our galaxy. Really, it's like the way, obviously the sun and the moon, like that, everything only works on this planet. So like, and it's so ancient, it goes back to the farthest, records we have back to ancient Sumeria. So it's like, okay, well, either they came up with it then, but I don't think so. I think it goes back further than that, to Atlantis and Lemurian times. I think it all started many, many tens, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years ago, with civilizations there. And then things just get passed down,
Right.
until it gets distorted over time. It gets more and more, you get different branches off of it, and like eventually it turns into different religions that we have now, and
Right.
these different interpretations of it, and different ancient writings that are like interpretations of it, and many of it done intentionally to hide the actual truth, which is why now we have secret societies, and that's what the mystery schools were back, like the ancient Egyptian mystery schools, and then that turned into eventually the Knights Templar and the secret societies and Freemasons, and now it's like you have these different groups that were like, we need to hide this knowledge from everyone else.
So what do you guys think so far, man? Am I onto something?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating. I was just telling Tyler how I think, because he's like, well, this is like encoded astrology, right?
Correct.
But it's like, well, who created astrology in the first place? And I'm like, I think that goes back many thousands of years back to like Atlantis Lemurian times, like very ancient.
Possibly, it could have been given to us from aliens. To be
Could
honest,
have been given to us from ETs, but given to us back then, and then it just gets passed down, and then gets distorted and turns into these different religious texts that get misinterpreted, mistaught, and mistranslated, and all the rest of it, right?
Right.
yeah, we'll get into it. We'll get some more stuff. I'm going to show you how they use it against us in society. I'm going to show you how they use it in entertainment. I'm going to show you how they use it in 6,000. This is going to get good. This is just the beginning, guys.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to do Revelation now, right? Because everyone's terrified that that's actually playing out. So this is Revelation 4:7. This is the 4 living creatures. Remember the fixed signs? And we did this already, so I'm just going to skip it, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Revelation 5:5. Then one of the elders said to me, "Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and the 7 seals." So guess what? The Lion of Judah is Leo. Leo's ruling planet is the sun. The sun is Christ. So he's able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. Revelation 6:1. I watched as the Lamb, that's Aries, open the first of the 7 seals. Of course, the Lamb has to open the first of the 7 seals in Aries because Aries begins the beginning of the year. So Aries is the beginning. So of course the Lamb has to open the beginning. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures, the fixed signs, say in a voice like thunder, "Come." It's interesting because in Hebrew, the word for thunder translates to voices. So when they used to hear thunder, like for example, on Moses on the Mount Sinai, they used to think God was talking to them when they heard thunder. Revelation 6:2. I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow. Who's the rider on the horse with the bow? That's Sagittarius. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures, the fixed signs again, saying 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages and 6 pounds of barley, the bread and the beer, that's Virgo, and do not damage the oil and the wine. Well, that's Libra. Well, Virgo and Libra are connecting signs, so there's 2 examples in each. Revelation 6:12. I watched as he opened the 6th seal. It was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like a sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. So they mentioned the goat and the moon right away. Well, the goat is Capricorn down here. And its opposing sign is Cancer right here, the crab. Well, the ruling planet of Cancer is the moon. So that's why they basically encoded them both in there. You have to understand astrology and able to read this. Revelation 7:4. I'm sure you guys have heard this a lot. The 144,000.
Mm-hmm.
Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. The Jehovah's Witnesses believe that only 144,000 people get to go to heaven.
Right.
They're predetermined. So it doesn't matter what you do on earth. You're either going or you're not. Only 144,000 people get to go see God. But I'm going to show you how, based on the East, everyone's able to go see God. So check this out. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals, the sacral has 6, the solar plexus has 10, the heart has 12, and the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakra. So 48 times 2 is 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48, it's 144. You times that by 1,000 and you get your 144,000. What they're trying to tell you is when you've activated all your chakras, including your crown chakra and your pineal chakra, that is when you get to go see God. So everyone can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Revelation 9:3. And out of the smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were given powers like that of scorpions on men. So we're going to see in about 5 minutes when I get into the book of Matthew that locusts are actually a food source, but they were given the power of scorpion. Well, what is the scorpion's power? Well, I told you earlier that the scorpion betrays. That's what it does. Well, so if the scorpion betrays, how does the locust betray? Well, a little bit is a food source, but if you have too many, it becomes a plague. That's the betrayal. Now, the locusts looked like horses, that's Sagittarius, prepared for battle. On their heads, they wore something like crowns of gold. So that's the sun in Sagittarius. The sun is gold. And their faces resembled human faces. That's Aquarius and Virgo. The hair was like a woman's hair, that's Virgo, and their teeth were like a lion's teeth, that's Leo. They had tails with stingers like scorpions, that's Scorpio. So the sun is in Sagittarius, then you have Virgo and Leo. Virgo and Leo are connecting signs. Sagittarius and Scorpio are connecting signs. Now, this is Revelation 12. This is the great dragon. We did this again, so I'm going to skip that. Then this short sentence, the beast I saw resembled a leopard, but he had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. There's a constellation that I'm just getting to right now called Camelopardalis. It's broken down into two words, Camelos and Pardalis. Camelos means camel, Pardalis means leopard. The original name for the giraffe was Camelopardalis because they saw this lanky thing with its neck and its spots, and they didn't know what to call it, so they called it camel leopard. That was basically the name for it. That's in Gemini. So the leopard is in Gemini, Camelopardalis is in Gemini, the bear is in Cancer, Ursa Major, and the lion is Leo. So just in this one sentence, you have 3 zodiac signs in a row. Revelation 13:11. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, that's Aries, but it spoke like a dragon. Well, the dragon starts in Aries. So this is just talking about Aries. Revelation 18:13. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense. By the way, guys, myrrh and frankincense, I didn't mention this earlier, but those are olive plants. So that has to do with Libra. Guess what? The wine is Libra, and the olive oil is Libra too. Fine flour and wheat, that's Virgo. Virgo and Libra are connecting signs. The cattle is Taurus. The sheep is Aries. Those are connecting signs. The horse is Sagittarius. The humans are Aquarius and Virgo, the man and the woman. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. That was the book of Revelation. It's not so scary, guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Not so much.
So, a deep dive into the book of Matthew. So what I've done is I put the zodiac here, and I'm going to explain it. So let me just notate the solstices and the equinox. These are the solstices, summer and winter, spring and fall. Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the 4 major points of the zodiac and ends at one of them as well. The 2 solstices and the 2 equinox, when they connect, form a cross. This is known as the cross that God's son carries to his death. The kingdom of heaven is right here in Leo because the ruling planet of Leo is the sun, and Jesus is the sun. That is the only sign that the sun rules over. So the closest point to this is June 21st, which is right here. So we're starting in Leo. Now, this right here is the cusp handover date between Cancer and Leo. It's the beginning of the kingdom. Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of this. For the record, guys, you can use a stick figure. It has nothing to do with it. I use the Vitruvian Man for aesthetic purposes. Now, remember, when you're at a cusp, you can talk about both signs. So Leo is, I could talk about the lion, the cub. Cancer, I could talk about Acellus borealis, the donkey, the beehive cluster. I could talk about Ursa Major, the bear, the Cancer, the scarab. We went over all this stuff before. So when you're in one sign, you can only talk about one. But when you're at the cusp, which I'll show you how it works into the story, you can talk about both. So this right here, Cancer, here's his mouth, but his head is in Cancer. The beehive cluster is in Cancer. So that's why he's eating the honey. Now, in Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat, all flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of those, you may eat any kind of locust. So there's the food that I was talking to you about a couple minutes ago. Katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. So we were starting in Leo, and now we're in Cancer. So that's 2 signs in a row. And also, by the way, guys, when they try and tell you a pound of grasshopper is just 3 times as nutritious as a pound of beef, World Economic Forum and all this stuff, trying to get you to eat bugs, it's biblical. That's where they get it from. So now we were in Leo, we were in Cancer. Now here's Gemini. This is a little lower. So the head was in Cancer, right? This is Gemini. This is a little bit lower. So this would be like right here. This is where he's wearing his clothes. The clothes made out of camel hair. Well, in Gemini, you have the constellation Camelopardalis. Well, now right here, you're in Taurus. This is a little lower. This is towards the midsection right here. As you can see, we went from Leo to Cancer to Gemini to Taurus. So we started with 4 signs in a row. Moving a little lower on the body, you get his midsection, which is where you wear a belt. Taurus represents the bull and the female is the cow. And that's where you get the leather from the cow. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits right here between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. So we started here at the beginning of Leo. Now, how do we go to a water sign to signify the baptism? You're just going to follow the cusp across the zodiac wheel to make a pattern. Now you're touching Aquarius, which is the man with the water pitcher, so you can have the baptism. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. So if Jesus is born on December 25th and he's going to rise a degree a day, that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and he's going to decrease a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. And it's also why, if you check a Catholic calendar, St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. St. John's Day is June 24th. So the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back here, right here to the beginning of the story, which is July 24th. It takes you, so Jesus is tempted for 40 days, right? Well, if we're at July 24th, what do? Just count 40 days. That's all you got to do. That's September 2nd. That's right in the middle of Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, right? So what's the next passage? Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of the bread, which tells you that the sun is in Virgo. So we were in Leo, and now we're in Virgo, and now we're going to Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? Well, what does he say? I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. So look at this, guys. We started in Leo, and we went 1, 2, 3, 4 signs here. Then we went 5, 6, 7. So the story starts with 7 signs in a row. That's how this works. Matthew 7:15 and 16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. That's Aries right here. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? The grapes are in Libra right here. Once again, there are opposing signs. Moving along, Matthew 13. Late in the same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. So he's walking down the Zodiac, and he sits beside the lake. He sets up shop right here at this cusp. Why? Because look at the words. They said he sits beside the lake. If he was in the lake, he'd be in one of these 2 water signs, Pisces or Aquarius, but he's not. He's beside the lake. So he's right here. Now, its cross sign is the cusp of Leo and Virgo. So you're touching Virgo, which is the lady with the wheat stalk, right? So what are the next parables? It's the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast. So all you got to do now is come back down here. So you're touching Pisces, so you can do the fishing net parable. It's just a keyword cipher that they use to basically make this that has to do with the zodiac. Gemini is the sign of 2 men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary, his mother, and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. This ends right here. How do we know? Well, because if you follow this across, this is the last day of Sagittarius. This is the day of death. This is December 21st. What's the very next story, guys, from this? It's the death of John the Baptist. As I've mentioned previously, death comes at the end of Sagittarius. So I'm just going to pause scripture for 2 seconds, and I'm just going to show you how scripture is written. Let's take this sentence, which sounds like it could be in the Bible, but isn't. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation. Or, the ruling planet of Aries right here is Mars, who's the god of war. The ruling planet of Libra right here is Venus, who's the goddess of love. There's your war and love, and it splits the land in half. That's how scripture is basically written. Now, Matthew 14, 17, and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread, that's Virgo right here, and 2 fish. Well, Pisces is literally 2 fish, and they're opposing signs. This is the cross of God's Son. We were just in Virgo with the bread. and the fish, the bread. And now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? So what stories do we get now? The story of the temple tax, that's law. The unforgiving debtor, that's law. Divorce and marriage, that's law. And the parable of the vineyard worker, that's wine. Also, Virgo and Libra are two connecting signs. Then next is Scorpio. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss. So you have 3 signs in a row. And then Jesus is killed the last day of Sagittarius. So you close with 4 signs in a row. That's the Gospel of Matthew, guys. Astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you. So are you starting to see the great implication that I've made so far with all of this? This means that I'm just going to say at the very, very, very least, okay, at the very, very, very least, the Bible is not meant to be taken literally. Now, let me read this to you one more time, guys, because this might make a little bit more sense now. What is the point of this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretations for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus is when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac and was the knowledge of staying alive, the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make stories up about them and pass them down to their children, then them to their children, etc. Eventually, they learned how to write and they wrote them down as they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism. In the Old Testament, then to the Christians, then to the Quran, then to the Book of Mormon, and anything else that's going to come out in the near future. My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories, and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how how our founding fathers knew this. So check this out. The U.S. was not founded as a Christian nation. Thomas Jefferson said, Christianity is the most perverted system that ever shone on man. Benjamin Franklin said, I have found Christian dogma unintelligible. John Adams said, this would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it. George Washington said, the Constitution is the guide which I will never abandon. But it goes on. Thomas Jefferson in a letter to John Adams, and the day will come when the mystical generation of Jesus by the Supreme Being as his father in the womb of a virgin will be classed with the fable of the generation of Minerva in the brain of Jupiter. What influence, in fact, have Christian ecclesiastical establishments had on civil society? In many instances, they have been upholding the thrones of political tyranny. In no instance have they been sent as the guardians of the liberties of the people. That's James Madison. The purpose of separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of Europe in blood for centuries. That's James Madison. And then this is Thomas Paine, guys, 250 years ago. The Christian religion is a parody on the worship of the sun, in which they put a man called Christ in the place of the sun and pay them the adoration originally paid to the sun. Why did he know that? And we don't know that now. Now look at this, guys. Why do they always crash the stock market in Libra? Look at this. Panic of 1907, October 1907, Teddy Roosevelt, Republicans. Wall Street crash of 1929, October 24th, 1929. That's the handover date to Scorpio, by the way, from Libra. Herbert Hoover, Republican. Black Monday, October 19th, 1987, Ronald Reagan, Republican. Friday the 14th mini crash, October 13th, 1989, George H.W. Bush, Republican. Stock market downturn of 2002, October 9th, 2002, George W. Bush, Republican. 10% in most of the world's indices drop, October 24th, 2008. That's another handover date. George W. Bush, Republican. If I were a betting man, I would say they manufacture these. And do you know why they do it in Libra? It's because it's the judge. We're being judged. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the judge, the reset. So if I was a betting man, I would think that if they can't get Donald Trump to stop doing what they're going to do right now, then Aladdin, which is BlackRock's AI, is going to force a stock market crash in Libra because they're all Republicans and it's always in October. Have you noticed that?
Interesting.
That's interesting.
I
Yeah.
have not noticed that, but you just painted a very clear picture.
Right? So check this out. This is why I can't get any religious person to talk to me. Roman
I
Catholic
wonder
Catechism.
why.
What's up?
I wonder why.
Right. Right? Roman Catholic Catechism 2116. All forms of divination are to be rejected, for course to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future, consulting horoscopes, astrology, palm reading, interpretation of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that you owe God alone. Would you guys agree that I've shown that there's astrology in these books?
Yeah, I mean, it's
100%.
So why would the Roman Catholic Church tell you astrology is evil?
They don't want you to know that
to invert it. Oh, yeah.
because they want you to take it literally. They don't want you to know any of the stuff.
Right.
So just want to point that out. Now check this out, guys. Do you guys remember this movie?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, do you remember Nicolas Cage, what his characters' names were?
No.
I don't.
They were Castor and Pollux Troy. Who was Castor and Pollux Troy?
Enlighten us.
Gemini. That's the name of Castor of Gemini. Castor and Pollux Troy. Well, guess what? What is John Travolta's name? That's Sean Archer. Well, the Archer is right here. It's opposing sign in Sagittarius. So they know this. There are a ton of characters in Harry Potter that are named after stars or constellation. You have Draco Malfoy, Pollux Black, Sirius Black, Andromeda Black, Regulus Black, Arcturus Black, Cassiopeia Black, Orion Black, and Cygnus Black. Algol is the demon star. It's fixed in Taurus. Has a long history of evil attached to it. In Batman Begins, the evil's character's name is literally Ra's al Ghul, which he gets from Algol. So they know this. Remember the Cranberries video, Zombie?
Oh,
Yeah.
1990 song video for the Cranberry Zombie. Here's Dolores O'Riordan. It's painted gold, and her head dressing right here represents the rays of the sun. Much like Jesus in the crown of thorns. But is it that? Well, look at this. She's painted gold, and in the next scene, you have the sun on the cross, and here's Sagittarius right here ready to take her out. So they know this. They put this. So if you don't know by now the Bible is not original, you still might have doubts. Here is 6,000 years of ancient holy texts, going from 5 Sumerian tablets, the Babylonian Enuma Elish, the Code of Hammurabi, which is where the Jews get their punishment and code of ethics from, to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, to the Gnostic texts, to all of them, to the Quran, to the Book of Mormon. I'm still right now working on the Apocrypha, the Ethiopian Bible, and the Colburn Bible, but it's all the same. And it's all on my website and in my books too. The Epic of Gilgamesh. May the bear mourn you, the hyena, the panther, the leopard, deer, jackal, lion, wild bull, gazelle. May the rivers Ulaya and Euphrates mourn you, whose sacred waters we offered to the gods. May the young men of the great walled Uruk mourn you, who cheered when we slaughtered the bull of heaven. Guys, the bull of heaven, it's obviously Taurus. May the farmer mourn you, who praised you to the sky in his harvest song. May the shepherd mourn you, who brought you milk. May the brewer mourn you, who made you fine beer. May Ishtar's priestess mourn you, who massaged you with sweet-smelling oil. May the wedding guests mourn you like their own brother. The bear is Ursa Major, the great bear, Gemini, and Cancer. The leopard is Camelopardalis. Mariga is the deer and is located in Orion, which is between Taurus and Gemini. Lion is Leo. The wild bull is Taurus. The rivers are Pisces, the water sign that signifies the water. The bull of heaven is Taurus. The shepherd is Aries, as previously mentioned. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose centers in Sagittarius. The brewer and the fine beer is from barley, which is harvested in Virgo. Ishtar's priestess is Virgo, the woman. The sweet-smelling oil is the oil from Libra. The mourning like their own brothers is Gemini, the brothers. So, guys, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, in this one passage that I just pulled, the only 2 signs that are missing are the scorpion and the goat. But you have 10 of the 12 there. Astro-theology and Enki in the world order. Father Enki engendered by a bull, begotten by a wild bull, a great dragon who stands in Eridug, a grove of vines extending over the land, where stags are born, where wild goats are born in meadows. You close up the days and make the months enter their houses. So the bull is Taurus, the dragon and its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, the stag is the deer, which is Mariga, which is in Orion, which is between Taurus and Gemini, and the goats are Capricorn. So guys, in this little section right here, you have Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Sagittarius. 7 signs in a row. Enki and Nirsaja. In Dilmun, the raven was not yet cawing. The partridge not cackling. The lion did not slay. The wolf was not carrying off lambs. The dog had not been taught to make kids curl up. The raven is the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders Virgo. The lion is Leo. These two are connecting signs. The wolf is the constellation Lupus, which borders Libra. That's 3 signs in a row. The lamb is Aries, which is the wolf's opposing sign. The dog is Canis Major, which is 11 stars in Cancer. Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra. 4 signs in a row. And Nama's descent to the netherworld. She took the 7 divine powers. She had placed twin egg-shaped beads on her breast. After 3 days and 3 nights had passed, and the other the life-giving water. They will offer you a river full of water. They will offer you a field with its grain. They eat no fish. The 7 of them poured the milk. They would not let the shepherd play the pipe. He turned his feet to snake's feet, in the beer house and the tavern. So the 7 divine powers are the 7 sisters of the Pleiades. That's in Taurus. The twin is Gemini. Those are connecting signs. The life-giving water is Aquarius. The river full of water is Pisces. These are connecting signs. The field and its grains are Virgo. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. The fish is Pisces as well. The milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, whose centers in Sagittarius. Sagittarius and Gemini are opposing signs. The shepherd is in Aries. So far, we have Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. We have 5 signs in a row. The snake is Ophiuchus, which sits in sidereal between Scorpio and Sagittarius. The beer house is Virgo. 7 signs in this table, 5 in a row. Enki's journey to Nibiru. And notice, guys, that it says Nibiru, not Nibiru. So those are 2 different things completely. Just want to make sure that you guys don't get lost in that.
Okay.
Its eaves roar like a bull. Your lock has no rival. Your bolt is a fearsome lion. Your roof beams are the bull of heaven. Your vault is a bull raising its horns. Your door is a lion who seizes a man. Your staircase is a lion coming down on a man. Rising sea without any rival. Mighty awe-inspiring river which terrifies the land. A lion in the midst of the Abzu. The Suhu carp play among the honey herbs. Enki had oxen slaughtered and had sheep offered there lavishly. Enki reached for beer and had emerald wheat beer pressed out. The bull is Taurus, the bull of heaven. The lion is Leo, the man is Aquarius. Aquarius and Leo are opposing signs. The carp is Pisces and the honey is the beehive cluster in Cancer. Aquarius and Pisces are connecting signs. The sheep is Aries. Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, and Taurus is 4 signs in a row. The beer wheat is Virgo. Virgo and Pisces are opposing signs. Leo and Virgo are connecting signs. Cancer and Leo are connecting signs. Cancer, Leo, Virgo are 3 signs in a row. I mean, do you see how many patterns? These are 6,000-year-old tablets, guys.
Right.
I'm showing you here. Now, here's the other thing that's interesting, too. The missing ones are Gemini, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. But if you look at the missing ones, too, even the missing ones have a pattern because Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs. Sagittarius and Capricorn are connecting signs. So even the missing signs form patterns in the heavens. There are countless other Sumerian texts. I only gave you 5 examples to show the pattern. The Enuma Elish. Then Tiamat enlisted a horned snake, a Mushusu dragon, a mad dog, and a scorpion man, half fish, half man, half bull. The horned snake is Ophiuchus. A dragon, Draco, the mad dog, is the dog star Sirius. Sirius, by the way, is in Cancer. The scorpion man is Scorpio and Aquarius mix. The half man, half fish is Aquarius Pisces border, which blends the fish and the man sign. The half man, half bull, which is half Aquarius, half Taurus. The Code of Hammurabi. If a man had stolen ox or sheep or ass or pig or ship, whether from the temple or the palace, he shall pay 30-fold. The man sign is Aquarius, the ox is Taurus, the sheep is Aries, the ass is Acellus Borealis, or the donkey, located in Cancer. The pig is a constellation called Porcus. The ship is a constellation called Argo that goes from Cancer to Scorpio, so that's 7 signs. Aries and Taurus are connecting signs, by the way. The Egyptian Book of the Dead. I have a couple examples here, too, by the way, for this one. O mighty of knives, lady of the 2 lands, the one who smashes the enemies of the weary-hearted one, the one who does what is wise, the one free of wrong. The name of its gatekeeper is Long-Horned Bull. What is to be said when arriving at the 5th portal? Words spoken by the Osiris Ani, the vindicated. O fiery one, mistress of heat, the joyful one, the one whom the entities of the bald-headed do not descend, the one who asks that something be given to her without the swift glance entering into her. The name of its gatekeeper is one who spears the disaffected. So the lady is Virgo, the woman. The long-horned bull is Taurus, the bull. Then this is also from the Book of the Dead. Chapter for becoming Ta, eating bread, drinking beer, purifying the hinder parts, and being alive in Heliopolis. What will you live on, say the gods and spirits to me? I will live and have power through bread. Where will you eat it, say the gods and the spirits to me? I will have power, and I will eat it under the branches of the tree of Hathor, my mistress, who made offering of bread, beer, and corn. Didn't I mention that bread, beer, and corn is all Virgo? Those who are in Heliopolis bow their heads to me, for I am the Lord, I am their bull. Well, the bread, beer, and corn is all Virgo when you harvest. The bull is Taurus. And this is interesting, guys. Heliopolis was in Egypt. It was the city of light. That's where people went to read books and become enlightened. So you know how that got passed down to us? Because it was called on. So what happens is when you go into a room and it's dark, to become enlightened or turn the lights on in order to see them.
Interesting. So, I mean, it's interesting to me watching you go through all this. Like, basically, all you have to do is just, look at all this through a new lens, and it just, every verse, everything makes sense. It all connects, and it's pretty obvious at some point. But my question is, to what end? Why go through all the trouble to write these texts in such a cryptic manner?
Oh, I'm going to explain it at the end.
Okay.
Almost none. I have about less than a third left.
Okay.
So now we're in the Gnostic text. Okay. So this is the Book of Enoch. And whatever you guys have heard about the Book of Enoch, I'm going to show you this real quick. This is why it's not allowed in the actual Bible. Because in chapter 8:2, it says Sinjazar taught enchantments, Armoros, the resolving of enchantments, Barakiel taught astrology, Kokabel, the constellations, Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds, Sariel, the course of the moon. And in those days shall mountains leap like rams, Aries, and the hills shall also skip like lambs, Aries, satisfied with milk, the Milky Way galaxy whose centers in Sagittarius. The Gospel of Q. Give us our daily bread today. Which of you would give your child the stone if they ask for bread? Or would you give them a snake if they ask for fish? So the bread is Virgo, the snake is Ophiuchus, and the fish is Pisces. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. Everyone who divorces his wife and remarries is unfaithful to her, and whoever marries someone who's divorced is unfaithful to. So divorce, that's law, that's Libra. Which of you, if you had 100 sheep and lost one of them, wouldn't leave the 99 in the hills and go after the one that got lost? Divorce, marriage, court is all Libra. The sheep is Aries. Those are opposing signs. The secret gospel of John. Sophia saw what her desire produced. It changed into the form of a dragon with a lion's head. So the dragon is Draco. That goes from Aries to Sagittarius. And part of that is Aquarius. Aquarius' opposing sign is the lion's head, or the lion in Leo. The gospel of Thomas. Happy is the lion that a man will eat. The lion will become a man. Cursed is the man whom the lion eats, for that lion will become a man. They're talking about ingesting an animal and their components will become part of you, or you a part of them. However, in astrology, the lion is the sign Leo. The sign of the man is Aquarius. They are opposing signs on the Zodiac. It's the same story. This is how you get Daniel and the lion's den. You have two Zodiac signs and you just write a story around it using these keywords. Man is like a skilled angler who casts his net and draws it up full of fish. They're talking about the man, Aquarius, and the sign of fish, Pisces. These are connecting signs. So if I were to show you how to create a merman, right? You take the man, Aquarius, and Pisces. These are connecting signs. If you want a mermaid, you take the fish, Pisces, and Virgo, the opposing sign. If you want to do like bull riding and bullfighting, that's Taurus and Aquarius. Shepherding, that's Aries and Aquarius. Jousting would be 2 times Sagittarius. Bull riding, bullfighting, Taurus and Aquarius. Fishing, Aquarius and Pisces. I mean, there's just so many different things, as above, so below, that you can make out of this. Lion taming, Leo and Aquarius. I mean, there's just so many. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Mary questioned her master, at the end of an eon will all matter be destroyed. Each zodiac sign is considered a house. So the house of Aquarius, the house of Pisces. Each sign is also called an eon. I think I mentioned that at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The Gospel of Philip. When he came to his disciples in splendid glory on the Mount of Olives, he wasn't small. He became great and made his disciples great so they could see him in greatness. On that day, he said in gratitude, you have united perfect light with Holy Spirit, unite us with the angels as well. Don't scorn the lamb. Without him, it is impossible to know the king. No one may visit the king without robes of light. So the olives are in Libra, the lamb is Aries. These are opposing signs. The Good Samaritan gave wine and oil to the weak man. Those are both Libra also. The Gospel of Judas. A nearby lake of still waters quenched our thirst. The place reminded us of David's famed shepherd psalm, our souls were restored. The lake of still waters is Pisces the water. The shepherd is Aries. These are connecting signs. The Gospel of Gematria, discovered by Billy Meyer. So the first slide I have is not astrotheology. The first slide I have is something interesting that I found. Now, this is supposedly written 2,000 years ago, okay? So keep that in mind. The Earth can nourish and support 500 million people of all the human races. But if these laws are not followed in 2,000 years, 10 times 500 million or 5 billion people will exist, and the Earth will not be able to support them anymore. So where have we heard the 500 million before? This gospel was discovered in 1963. So in 1963 minus 2,000 years, look at what the population was in 1963. It's eerily close to this. Well, what was created in 1980, guys, that talks about the 500 million?
The guide stones. Yeah.
Georgia Guidestone.
So as far as my research goes, guys, it goes back to the Gospel of Billy Meyer, why everybody is obsessed with the 500 million number.
Interesting.
Truly, I say to you, from now on, I will no longer drink of the fruit of the vineyard, nor eat of the bread, until I drink and eat again with you after my affliction. The grapes are Libra, and the bread is Virgo. Those are connecting signs. This is the Quran. You guys are going to laugh at how obvious at this point in your education with me for just an hour this is going to be to you now. Those who do not know say, why has not the Lord turned the word to us, and why will he not show us a sign from heaven? Similar words are spoken by those who came before, and their hearts alike. We interpret the signs for those who are committed to faith. And how beautifully all people see the love of earthly passions. Here are women and sons. There are mountains of silver and gold, and marked horses and herds of cattle in a plowed field. The women are Virgo, the sign of the woman, and the sons are the boys in Gemini. Horses are Sagittarius and cattle is Taurus. The plowed field is Taurus as well. Taurus and Gemini are connecting signs. Gemini and Sagittarius are opposing signs. Verily in the creation of earth and sky and in the change of night to day. Here are the hidden signs for those who have intelligence. And among them are those who only pretendingly listen to you. We put a cover on their hearts so that they would not understand it. And we covered their ears with deafness. And even if they see all the signs, they will not believe them. He is the one who brings down water to you from the sky. Remember the Shemin, God? And with it, we give plants of all kinds to grow. And with it, we grow shoots of cereal. From them, we grew grains, sitting in an ear of dents side by side. From the date palm, its ovaries, bunches of fruits hanging low, gardens of vines, olives, pomegranates, which in many ways are so similar, yet so different from each other. When fruits appear on them, rejoice in how they are poured and ripen. Truly in this are hidden signs for those who believed in God. So what are the hidden signs in this passage? Well, the grains are planted in Taurus. The April showers bring May flowers, water from the sky. The grains grow, reap in Virgo, gardens of vines and olives, grapes and olives are pressed in Libra. This is how you read this. These are the signs. This is how you read these books. And whoever wants to own a beautiful garden of date palms and vines, which is washed by abundant streams, where for his pleasure all kinds of fruit, while old age befalls him, and the children are weak, so that a fiery whirlwind falls on the garden, and swallows it all to ashes. So the Lord explains his signs to you so that you can understand. The vines are vineyards in Libra, and the streams are the streams and the water signs of Pisces and Aquarius. Also, so that's the Quran, guys. I mean, there are people killing each other over this, the literal interpretation of this. Now, check this out. 72 virgins, right? That's what all the terrorists do this for, right? There's a sign, or there's a star called 70 Virginis, which glitters Virgo. So there's your 70. Then there's one virgin in Virgo, that's 71. Plus the virgin you marry on Earth, that's 72. Those are your 72 virgins. It's all astrology. It's not, you're not going to go to heaven and have 72 virgins. It's all here. It's all out there.
Right.
And on top of which, A lot of Muslims will say, yeah, but you're allowed to have multiple wives. And that's true. You can if you're a Muslim. But the caveat to that is you have to be able to afford them. You're allowed to have up to 4 wives if you can afford them, and most can't. So let me finish off with the Book of Mormon. Nevertheless, I went forth, and as I came near unto the house of Laban, I beheld a man, and he had fallen to the earth before me, for he was drunken with wine. Yeah, and I also thought that they could not keep the commandments of the Lord according to the law of Moses, save they should have the law. Both wine and lawly things take place in Libra. And after the house of Israel should be scattered, they should be gathered together again, or in fine, after the Gentiles had received the fullness of the gospel. The natural branches of the olive tree, or the remnants of the house of Israel should be grafted, or it come to the knowledge of the true Messiah, their Lord, their Redeemer. Therefore, remember, O man, for all thy doing, thou shalt be brought into judgment. Well, the olives and the judgment both take place. The law and the olives and the wine take place in Libra. And my father said he should baptize in Bethabara beyond Jordan. And he also said he should baptize with water, even that he should baptize the Messiah with water. And after he had baptized the Messiah with water, he should behold and bear record that he had baptized the Lamb of God, who should take away the sins of the world. Baptism is literally Aquarius. The Lamb of God is Aries. And I looked and beheld the Lamb of God, that he was taken by the people. Yea, the Son of the everlasting God. So the Son, that's Aquarius. And I saw and bear record. The Lamb of God is Aries. The Son of God, or the Son of Man, is Aquarius. Judging takes place in Libra. Libra and Aries are opposing signs. So once again, guys, my point once again is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. Now you guys see why I put that quote in here like 3 times. So the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said that all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. So do you understand the great implication here? What is more likely? That all the Western ancient holy texts that we take for granted are living, breathing books, that the book of Revelation keeps coming true, or that the ancient elites that have encoded all our texts this way and are tailoring events that people can interpret as coming true.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
I agree.
Right. So I just wanted to share this real quick. I also have a Truth in Book series, Into the Rabbit Hole series. I'm the author of the Into the Rabbit Hole series. And these are my 8 books. Some topics that I go into: Gematria, etymology, numerology, astronomy, astrology, astrotheology, out-of-body experiences, the Akashic records, symbology, remote viewing, religious secrets, capstones of the pyramids, DNA encoding, mystery school channelers, near-death experiences, DMT monitoring, lucid dreaming, acoustic levitation, physics and quantum physics, psychotherapy, psychology, spiritual guides, Tesla tech, shared dreaming, crystal technology, conspiracies that not many people know about, corruption and secret societies. And for any of you who are interested, because I just gave 1 slide for each of the books, because obviously I'm not going to read all of them because it would take me 10 years. But if you go to my website, debunkmywork.com, you'll be able to find all my work. There's a way to email me. All my social media is on there. If you guys want to reach out to me, you want to follow me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, please follow me this way. My website has the little icons for all of the social media. I have a Rumble too. I actually got kicked off of YouTube previously, so I'm not on YouTube anymore. But dude, I gave you an 80-minute primer in 6,000 years. So now that you guys have seen this and we've been through all this, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, for one, I'm impressed for a number of reasons. I'm impressed that you put the research together, that you even had the wherewithal to figure it out and compile it in such a way to make it digestible. I'm impressed that the information was as mind-blowing as it was. And I mean, I like the name of your website, Debunk My Work, because once you lay it out like that, it's really hard to argue. And I'm impressed at how fast you were able to go through it and still make it relatable without. I'm impressed at at your presentation skills because it takes a lot to keep somebody's interest for that long, with that text, with that dense, heavy, text, text heavy, whatever I'm trying to say. I thought it was great. I kind of grew up with a religious background, but I always opposed it I was just always against it for whatever reason. Don't know why. But this makes a lot of sense to me. So what I'm trying to say is I really didn't have the religious programming because I resisted it. So it doesn't take much for me to see this and say, yeah, that makes sense. But somebody who has that religious background, it might be a little harder for them to accept this. And that's probably why they don't want to talk to you. That's
Right.
why I see it.
I've been doing this. I've done over maybe 1,100 podcasts in the last 5 years. I only went public after my book series came out. My first book came out. I've been doing interviews for 5 years, and not one single death threat. Not one. Also, not one single video on YouTube debunking me or saying, here's why Micah Dank is wrong or anything. That's why I named my website Debunk My Work, because it's short, it's easy to relate. I went into this looking to be debunked. I was like, I'm seeing all these patterns, guys. Tell me what I'm missing.
Right.
I mean, is this the kind of thing? Is this the presentation, the kind of thing you guys might want to have at your conference next year?
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely not opposed.
And Aaron, you were going to say something just a minute ago.
Well, you said someone with a religious background might be turned off by it, but it's funny because like I said, I have a very strong religious background. I call my awakening when I was 25, but all up until age 25, hardcore Christian, Protestant Christian. And, my awakening, it happened when there was a little lead up to the big year of it, but like the big year was 2012 when I found David Icke, Jordan Maxwell.
Yeah, Jordan was my mentor.
I was just going to ask, I'm like, this might be a dumb question, but are you a fan of Jordan Maxwell? I can tell.
He was my mentor and my friend. We talked
that
a lot.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
He talks a lot. He used to talk about this kind of stuff a lot.
I'm basically, the way I like to say it is I'm continuing his work.
You definitely are. And you're doing a fantastic job. So thank you. But yeah, because I used to watch back then. I was watching all the Jordan Maxwell videos, I could find on YouTube, and he was talking about this stuff and a lot of other stuff, and that was my introduction to, oh, wait a second, I mean, there was other things that, like the first thing that got me questioning the Bible was the concept of hell and the mistranslation of it in the Bible. And that it wasn't even like you're taught as a Christian that hell is in the Bible. It's a biblical concept, and that's where the truth of it comes from. But that's not even true. It's a complete mistranslation. And then you can like study the history of where that came from, the Roman Catholic Church, basically. And there's like more ancient, ideas.
I mean, if you guys are interested, I could put together another presentation. We could do a part 2. I can dive into some of the misunderstandings throughout the stories of the Bible, and I could do a part 2 on this. It still ties into
that would be amazing. I would love that, actually. I think that would be
I think so. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can do a few of these. I mean, if we can just space them out, so give people time to digest the first one, and then
right.
We got a normal schedule to keep up with, but we can definitely explore and talk about doing more of these.
I'm basically hoping that some of the people that watch your stuff will find this as interesting as you have, and will be interested to get.
Well, our audience, I think our audience is pretty much on the same page as us at this point. Obviously there's always new people that find the channel, and everybody's at their own level of awareness and awakening. But I think that
vast majority, I would say,
if somebody's going to tune in and actually give you the time of day and sit down and just absorb this information like we just did, and just with an open heart and an open mind, it's really hard to, in my opinion, it's hard to argue. But like I said, I don't have a foundation of belief that was to be destroyed, because I never grew up in that. So somebody else might find it difficult. But Aaron, you've already unraveled that over the years. So this was probably a lot easier to accept than it would have when you were 25 or whenever.
Yeah, it's funny because the year I was coming across this information, I was so hungry for like just truth in general, no matter what. And it was like Jordan Maxwell, for example, is like, it was like you said, I couldn't debunk. I'm like, this all makes way too much sense. He's laying it out like, and it almost was like this switch flipped in my brain of like, oh, I've been lied to my whole life. This is the like stuff behind the curtain that I wasn't supposed to know about all this stuff, right? I just knew. I just like knew. But not everyone is ready. Obviously, like not like a lot of people. It takes a long process to get them, to deprogram or accept that what they believe isn't actually the full truth. But
Right.
So
Yeah.
why don't you
like a
guys,
floodgate opened, and
why don't you guys just stay in touch?
Yeah.
Let me know how this is received, and we'll schedule a part 2 at some point in the future. And I would love to be part of your conference, to be honest. I think this is a short, precise intro. The good thing about this is towards like by the middle of my presentations, you guys are already like, oh yeah, that's that, and that's that, and that's that, and that's
Right.
it's sticking because it's so repetitive and it's so in your face.
Well, I would like to do also is, we can have another conversation, have you back on, but don't do a presentation because I think I have questions. I'd like to pick your brain and just discuss this stuff, and we can just like shoot the shit a little bit, and then maybe that can segue into a part 2 presentation. But I feel like there's a lot of follow-up questions I have, and we've been at this for quite a while now. So I think we're going to wrap this up, but we can do it again, and I think I would like to have more of a conversation the next time,
Sure.
and then maybe a time after that we can do another presentation.
I would love that, guy.
I really
would
think
love that.
I really
You
think
guys were
yeah.
you guys were solid. Like from the beginning, I could tell you guys were solid. I could tell you guys were
Awesome.
open to
Thank you.
information and you were receptive to it. The difference between me and Jordan is that Jordan, I don't think, looked as deep into these texts as I did.
I was gonna say you go a lot deeper, even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love him to death. Miss him. I do a memorial for him every year.
Nice.
Which, if you're interested, we do every year. March 23rd, the day of his death, we do a podcast. It's me and a couple of people. And Aaron, if you're interested, I could bring you on. You could share a story or two.
I would love that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you think about this, and I'll just wait to hear from you guys.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll put your information in the description below for those who are listening, or they can just rewind it and screenshot the slide that you had up. But this was great, guys. We hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for tuning in, and we can't wait to see you at the conference. And just in a couple days, we're going to be hugging a lot of you. And there he goes. He had to go. So anyway, but yeah, I think that was fantastic, and I really, I just thought it was a great presentation. But we will see you Monday at the conference. So come on out and let's have some fun for a week, and then we'll get back to work after that. So good night, and we love you. Hello, and welcome to Conference Phone. If you know the name of the conference you'd like to attend, press 1.
Come on.
Using your touch-tone keypad, please enter the first 3 letters of the conference title now. You've selected Secret Space Conference? If that is correct, press 1.
What?
You've selected Full Disclosure Now. If this is correct, press 1. Why don't you just tell me the name of the conference you'd like to attend? Rebels of Disclosure? To find the venue nearest you, please enter your 5-digit zip code now. Why don't you just tell me where you want to attend the conference? Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center? Rebels of Disclosure is playing at the Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center in Grafton, Illinois, May 12th through 15th, 2025.
Yeah, now I got you.
If you would like to purchase tickets, please visit journeytotruth.online now.